Welcome to the Asset Mindset Podcast. Today, we got a really cool episode. One of my, believe it or not, mentors from back in the day. I've heard about him in Legend as I was in 7th Special Forces Group. He was in 7th Special Forces Group. And he actually, when I got out, helped me put food on the table while I worked for him at NEK. So I did some cool stuff. I'm very grateful and honored to have Bruce Parkman on the Asset Mindset Podcast here live with us today. And Bruce, say hello to the Asset Mindset folks.
Dan, I just can't thank you enough for having me on this podcast. Didn't know, we had, back in the day, so many employees. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to sell the company is I just couldn't know everybody. And I am so grateful to be asked to be on this podcast and share whatever I've been through to help you and help other people, man. So I'm here, and thanks for hosting this, man. I mean, a podcast that has the focus that you have right now is so needed in this crazy world, man. I can't thank you enough for putting this together, man. All about it.
Thank you. It's an honor. It's people like you and others that have gone before us that help teach us how to pay it forward and the lessons we've learned. And to kind of sum up, I'll share a little bit of the asset mindset. So we obviously know De Oppressor Libere, to free the oppressed or to free from oppression. That's our motto. Well, after getting out and doing some DoD contract work and being on the road, being a role player and in the hotel rooms, I decided to take our motto, De Oppressor Libere, to the civilian world and write the asset mindset, because I think people oppress themselves with their own mindset and the way they think and victim mentality. So I wrote the book to try and help change people's lives. It's done it. And here I am now with a podcast with great guests like you who have also achieved success by using what I call the asset mindset. So why don't you share a little bit about your first time when you realized that your mindset actually helped define, or any moment that you want to share when you really realized that your mindset was so powerful and could overcome challenges in life?
I think, in the military, as a Green Beret, you kind of, once you get the hat, you kind of get that attitude, right? And we're all through it. And, and I just, I know there's several times, the one time I did doubt myself the most is when I volunteered for combat in El Salvador to be a military advisor. And at that time, literally, they dropped me off on a hilltop and gave me a radio and said, call in every Sunday, let us know you're alive, and here's 2 battalions of infantry to work with and go kick some ass. I'm like, okay. So I'm a 28-year-old E7, and for the first time, I really doubted myself. I just left SWCC. I got all the certifications to be there. I was O&I, I was in E7, I went through ANOC, yada, yada. I was like, what do I do now? The guy I replaced was a drunk, and all he wanted to do was drink. I'm like, dude, we got to work here. It was a quiet zone, but there was work to be done. And then I just said, F it, let's go. What I got to do, and then I've been training troops for a while. So I just started digging in and piling on. Next, we're building mortar pits. I was like, we ain't got no indirect fire. I mean, we're fighting a war with no helicopters, no artillery, nothing, dude, just small arms, right? Getting out there at night, getting on it. Not that we were that, I went out with them and, we weren't supposed to, but that's what you had to do. And we were in a pretty quiet zone anyways. But that's when I started to, after about 9 months of that, actually, I was in the embassy. And I was, we used to had to come in once a month, and we had to talk about what's going on in our destacamento militar, is what they called our bases. And I remember that we got a mill group commander who was an artillery dude, right? He was Colonel Hamilton at the time, became a Tomb Star, but he became the mill group commander. He wasn't a SEAL, wasn't a Green Beret, and we're all going, what the F? And there's only 55 of us because we were capped, right? So this is when I started understanding really what Green Berets can do, because I was literally in the bathroom on the throne, right? And the mill group commander comes walking in with this high-ranking, it was an Army official that was down there just checking on the war, because everybody thought we were going to go into Vietnam, right? We got advisors, all this stuff. And they're standing at the pisser, and they don't know I'm in the room. And that colonel told him, he said, look, when I took this job and you told me that I could put a single E7 by himself in a combat zone with no support and they can affect change, I would have told you you were smoking more dope than anybody in the world. And and I heard him say, these men are amazing. He said what they're doing, how they're doing it. Like, we had no resources, man. They had some butcher block paper. They say, get out there. And that's when, I started understanding. Said, wow. Up until then, you just think this is what we do, right? I mean, Green Berets do this. We go on missions. We do this, and then it just never hit me until that moment that being alone, like many of our brothers had been up to that time, and getting things done is what we do. And man, we put together scuba schools. We put together recon schools. I mean, anytime somebody asks for something, man, we got it done. And it was a fascinating experience, but that's when I started to really have the confidence that I should have had as a Green Beret. I didn't have a lot of confidence. I was, an abused child. I came in and I was new to SF. I was still trying to make my mark. But yeah, I think that's when the first time that, my positive, optimistic side kind of crossed my creative side and said, hey, I got nothing. I got to help this colonel out. And I got to defend his quartel. He's had a year of a drunk advisor, didn't do anything. So let's get it moving. So I think that was pretty much the first time that, and then passing scuba school was, that was another time where I just, I had to put it all together, man,
Yeah. So the positive mental attitude that you're able to create and things that you've done in the experiences as being a Green Beret, that is carried over into the civilian world as well. How does that transition happen for a guy like you or a guy like me? Like, how can we share that with the next generation that's coming out?
What I would tell the next generation, and I think this is what's happened to me in my life, is that God will always put doors in front of you. And if you don't believe in the Lord, no problem. Doors are going to open up, no matter how they get there. Your choice is, do I open that door or not? And you can open that door and see what's on the other side and have the confidence in yourself to say, well, no matter what's going to happen on that side of the door, I can handle this. Or you can spend the rest of your life wondering, what would have happened if I opened that door? So in 2000, when I got out, it was before the towers, right? It was tough, bro. I mean, it took you 5 minutes to send in a resume over AOL, like, all that stuff, right? I had no network. I was unemployed, a retired Green Beret Sergeant Major in El Paso, Texas, with my beautiful new bride. I couldn't find a job, man. I was depressed. I mean, I got out. I was like, wow, man, I was beaten down. Like all of, when you transition, you're not ready for this, right? And I think one of the points I'd like to get to with you is that every military person that leaves, especially Green Berets, has everything it takes to be successful in this world. And they just don't feel it. They don't see it because it's something that they've never done. They're not prepared for it. It's not like, hey, I got to go to O&I school and you G2 the tests, right? Or I'm going to scuba school. You can talk to other scuba guys. There is no course on transition, right? It's, unless you want to become a defense contractor, which unfortunately many of our brethren done, and deprived this nation of some really good companies and good leaderships. But there's other guys that have made that transition. And so, in 2002, somebody asked me to bid on a contract. He said, hey, I've got this colonel, he needs 4 Green Berets. Can you do this? And I said, well, I am a Green Beret. I know how to write. I wrote all those risk assessments and, everything for our missions, all the mission planning and country studies and all that stuff. I know how to write. So I wrote a proposal and I won and I got picked up. But then I had to start a company and I had never. But I just won $1 million contract. What is payroll, right? What's insurance? I was sending guys. I literally won the contract to go build the WMD search capability for the Iraq invasion. I had to hire 3 of my best friends. Dude, it was crazy. But it's all about it's confidence. The military, just by not even being a Green Beret, just by being a soldier, right? Or, male or female. We have levels of confidence and experience that nobody else in the country has when they start out in life or when they start a new chapter. And I think we don't give ourselves a pat on the back for serving and learning. And then we lack the confidence to really do something crazy like start a business or start a podcast or write a book, identify a niche. And so that would be my message to the generations. Like, you have what it takes. And everything that you're pushing for, sir, when you start talking about optimism and confidence and just, the intestinal fortitude, right? Everything that we got in the Army, right, is just being applied. And it's even easier out here. Nobody puts a rucksack on your back or makes you jump out of a plane in the middle of the night with a chem light on the back of your, parachute. I mean, it's in some ways it's scarier because there's a lot on the line, but on the other side, the upside for those that really that do well is there's no end to it. There's no cap.
No, absolutely. Can you do me a favor and walk us through your mental process when facing an overwhelming challenge, like in real time? So in your experiences and all those things and starting a company, so for our listeners, because not everybody here is former military or whatnot, because you don't have to be special forces to have the asset mindset. You can have the asset mindset and not be SF or an operator or whatnot. But when you're going through your mental process, when facing a challenge, what steps do you take that you can share with the audience?
When I'm challenged, and this is where I am at this point, when I was challenged about 10 to 15 years ago, I just went for it. I swung, and no matter what happened, I made so many. I didn't plan. I didn't. Like, if I had an idea, I have wasted so much money on companies and ideas that didn't pan out because I knew better than anybody that this was going to get out there, right? And we get cocky in life, especially, you sell your first company, you get out as a Green Beret, you think, man, I could do anything. But for those people that are getting ready to start out, when you're being challenged, number one, you have to trust in yourself. You have to trust in yourself that you can do whatever endeavor you're getting ready to take forth. You can do it. Nothing's going to stop you. The next part, which is equally as important, is that no matter what happens, good or bad, it's going to be a learning process that a learning event that you're going to rely on for the rest of your life. I always had a 2-strike rule in the military. I didn't give a crap, even with my kids, my soldiers, how many mistakes you made, as long as you didn't make the same mistake twice. Because experience comes from learning, and learning comes from making mistakes. You have to make mistakes in life to go forward. What you can do is minimize those mistakes through preparation, through planning, through talking to others that have been there before. So, when I'm challenged, with something, and I have been challenged, bro. I mean, I lost my son 4 years ago. Now I think I can relate this better. Is that, first of all, I trust in the Lord, or I trust in fate. I cannot control what's going to happen. I mean, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, but I just got to get on it. And as long as I give it 110%, no matter what happens, I gave it 110%. And that, and that's what's going to get, you over the hump, is that when times are hard, and they're going to be hard, whether it's monetary, whether it's relationship based, whether it's personnel, managing people nowadays is not, it's not a birthday party, man. People are tough, and they have expectations and entitlements, or, it's just different generations that you're going to have to cross in how you communicate. But, and that's when your confidence in yourself and your trust that you can get this done is gonna count more than ever. And so, those are, and no matter what you're going to do, I'm telling you, I mean, I own a software company that we're finally doing something that nobody else knows how to do. And literally how I fell into that is a 4-hour story and a bag of chicken wings and some beer. But trust me, no matter what you plan on doing in your life, there's probably somebody that's done something close to it, or done something like it before. Whether you're going to buy a gas station or a chain of liquor stores, start your own company. Talk to people that have been there, because preparation is the best path forward to do something. Matt, and it's going to be new to you. So those are just some of the things that pop into my head.
Yeah, and chance favors the prepared mind. The more you prepare, the better your odds are at succeeding. The more you work hard and study and the effort you put in, the better you're going to do in life. That's just how it works. The more you surround yourself with mentors or find mentors, those things are so impactful. But what happens when someone has a victim mentality and they're stuck? Like, oh, this happened to me. Oh, poor me. What advice, or how would you snap somebody out of that victim mentality where they think they can't because of their past?
To me, a lot of victim mentality is based on, how you were raised, trauma, and a lack of confidence in yourself. All right. And when you say, hey, woe is me, I mean, you're giving up. All right. And that's just not what we do as humans. We don't give up. And if you're going to give up, you shouldn't start it in the first place. All right. If you're going to start something and you have a tendency to do things half-ass, or if you expect that because you start something that you deserve a victory, right? Hey, I'm going to start a company and I want to make $1 million by the end of this year. No, bro. Sorry. Hey, sister, it's a lot of hard work to get there. But when you get it, you've earned it. Okay. So people sometimes expect things to happen real fast, and they don't want a lot of confrontation. They don't want to climb over obstacles. They just want it to happen. Hey, I started this, and this is going to happen. Man, Murphy's out there. Life's out there. If you're not in the military, Murphy's that little guy that's always messing with you, man. And so we have this thing called Murphy out there. You're not expecting something. It's going to happen. Whatever you don't plan for is going to happen, and it's going to be all about your attitude. But if you do have a victim attitude or woe is me attitude, I would look at your ego. Okay, our egos right now run our lives, good and bad. And if you dial into ego death, and for me, an older man, I've been on a very deep, profound spiritual journey that has led me to a point in my life which we can talk about. Dan, is I am so optimistic now because I know I whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So why am I worried about it? Why do I worry about what's going to happen next week? I can't control that. All I can do is my best. And if I've done my best, then whatever happened next week, I deserve it. And sometimes it don't work out, and you just have, like this company here, man, I don't know what's going to happen to this company. People tell me it's worth $1 billion. Other people are like, it could be worth $1 billion. I'm like, all right, well, whatever, man. And we've struggled, man, to get to this point. I don't know. But the issue is it's been 7 years of ass pain to get to the point of where we're starting to get the look that we wanted 7 years ago. Wasn't easy. So I would say to your folks, take a look at yourself and how you can change that mentality, because, that comes from, the way you perceive life. It could be the way you were treated by your parents, the way, that things have happened to cause that, because that's not the attitude that you should want. You should be optimistic in this life. You are a part of the Lord's world, and everybody has so much to offer each other. And a victim mentality is very selfish. It's also, hey, it's focused on you. And this world, a lot of times, is not about you. It took me 63 years to understand that my job the rest of this life is to serve other people. I do not care what happens to Bruce Parkman anymore, right? I've got a son to make proud. I look up to my Lord. I want to make him proud. But every day I meet people, and it's, what can I do for you? And it took me a long time to get there. And so, I think that I would definitely tell them, hey, stop being selfish. Okay, you can fix this, and get some confidence. Understand, grab your cojones, put your head in the game, and don't give up. Whenever you hear yourself saying, life sucks, or woe is me, or this happened to me again, it's because you gave up the first time. Don't give up this time, and keep going. And then when you can go no more, that's when you've given it 110%, then move on. But do not quit until you've given something all you have, because then you're going to spend the rest of your life. What happened if I would have just gone the next step? If I would have put in that next $50,000 or whatever? Because when you can go no farther, you can't go any farther, man. That's it. God, there's a wall right there. When you hit that wall, dude, you're done. But don't create the wall before you hit it. That's some points I'd put there.
No, definitely. And that's some of the same advice that I got from my first mentor, my dad, who's no longer with us. And he was always telling me every day, if you move forward and you give it your all, no matter what happens, like you're saying, the results, you can put your head on the pillow and go to bed at peace. If
Yes,
people
sir.
want peace and want to have that relief in their mental capacity where they're not stressed so much, if every day you did the best you could, guess what? You're going to be able to go to bed without regret, without wondering, oh, maybe I should have done this, or maybe I should have tried to exercise or eat healthy. If you're doing the best you can each day or taking small steps in a direction where it leads you to your goal, then yeah, that piece. And that's what helped me get through the Q course and all the different things that have been trials in my life is, you know what? Every day I'm moving forward. And I think that's a theme that runs rampant in SF and special operations. Just keep moving forward. And listeners, I'm telling you right now, you can do it. You just got to stay focused. Bruce is a prime example of it. I like to think I'm an example of it. I never thought I would be here. Never thought I'd be an author. Never thought I'd work with celebrities. You know, the things we're doing, having a podcast now, it's incredible. Life is incredible, but you have to put yourself out there and you have to do the work and surround yourself with good people. So,
And Dan, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask you, Bruce, about mentors with the surrounding about good people. If you want to say something else, go right ahead. But I definitely want to come back to mentorship.
No, we'll talk about mentors. I got some great stories there. But to your folks, and what you just said, Dan, was so profound, is that we often go through life and we never give ourselves a break. We are harder on ourselves than anybody is ever hard on us. And what I hope your listeners can pull from this every now and then, like you said, you go as far as you can. And if it's an inch, hey, you got an inch, man. If you're struggling with alcoholism or a failing business, whatever, every day that you're still you're on this earth or your business is still existing, you are moving forward. And give yourself a pat in the back for that. Is it all that you want? No, and I don't care whether it's your relationships with your wife, with the Lord, with your kids, with your business relationships, your fitness that you brought up, how you treat yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back for at least doing something, and you'll find that over time, giving yourself a break is one of the greatest gifts. Besides, the next greatest gift you give yourself is to love yourself. Love yourself for who you are, what you are, and the fact that you're still on this earth after whatever you've done in your life. Think of all the times we both probably should have been killed. I almost died 8 times in the military. I only had one life left in the military before I got out. All kinds of crazy stuff, right? But on mentors, dude, you got to have them, man. And, it's... when I started my first company, I didn't have one. I didn't know what I was doing, bro. I mean, I nobody wanted to help me because nobody wanted to see a young company survive. Because I'll tell you what, I don't care what anybody says. Nobody likes competition. And these big players in your space, no matter where you're at, will crowd you out. They'll dial you in. They'll try to put you to death over and over again because they don't know. Everybody says, competition is. And that's why it's so hard, because whether you're a gas station on the other side of the street, a defense contract trying to make it going, or wherever you're at in life, there's competition out there and everybody wants to win. And the big guys don't want to lose. And guess what they got? Money and power. So you got to move out. But it does. And that made me realize the value of what you said, Dan, is mentors. And I've had mentors in my military career that have saved my life. Quick story. I was an E4 in the 101st, and my first sergeant, who was Mac and the toughest little African-American first sergeant, had 3 combat patches, 82nd, 101st, and Special Forces. Calls me in his office, and he goes, he's got his cup of coffee with his whiskey. He goes, need to make a decision, Specialist. He hands me a manila folder, Chapter 7 paperwork. He says, I'm throwing you out. I go, for what? He goes, you're drunk all the time. You're fighting all the time. He says, in the woods, you're one of my best troops, but I can't keep you in the woods. You are not meeting your eye. He says, unless you do this. And he hands me another middle folder. I open up, Special Forces application. So I was literally drafted into Special Forces, bro, because I had nowhere to go. I couldn't go home. And that man, I always looked up to him. And by doing that one thing, he said, the only place your crazy ass is going to make it in this man's army is Special Forces. So I went there. And over the years, I had several leaders in the Army that saw that I was not a good soldier. Man, I just wasn't a good soldier. Even as a team sergeant, my first team, even my second team, I was growing up, man. I was very immature. It was all about partying and chicks, and I'm a team sergeant. I got all my badges. I got CIB and Halo Scuba. I got badges, bro, you know? But in the end, it wasn't until I became a sergeant major, and then I became the mentor to EHs, and I started growing up. That's when I not only realized how important it was to have people to look up to, but then how important it is now that people are looking up to me, for me to go straight, for me to stop drinking, for me to be a good father, a good husband, a good leader, to keep these companies going, because I want to help them. And I have been able and blessed to put food on the table for thousands of people. I have been blessed to help so many people through tragedies, and and now I'm mentoring, children that are suffering from mental illness as a result of contact sports. And a lot of military members are finding us because of the impact of repetitive blast exposure and the ability to give back. So, yeah, I mean, whether you need a mentor or you have the opportunity to be a mentor, whether you're taking from somebody that knows it or giving back, those are, two absolute necessities to make it through life, because you can't do everything on your own, man. You really can't.
Yeah, no, and they're special relationships. That's one thing I think people, we tend to know that, but they don't realize how special they are until hindsight's 2020. You look back at that first sergeant that really mentored you, and then it's like it's a whole different level from what it was that day in his office. Other mentors that are out there, people need to understand they want to help you. If you're motivated, they want to help. If you ask somebody that's, I don't know, let's use drums, music. Someone's a great drummer, and they get some young kid that's in high school or whatever, is like, man, I saw you play. I'd love to learn from you. They're going to be happy to share. Whether it's a business owner or a salesperson that you work with and manager, that they do a really good job, ask them about it. They're going to love your passion and your motivation, and they're going to be more than happy to share. And if they don't, well, then they probably wouldn't have been a very good mentor anyways.
Yeah. And I would, to add to that point, a lot of times the people that we look up to, we're afraid to bother, right? We don't want to, we're very, cautious about, approaching them, because maybe they're, a celebrity, or maybe they're just like a CEO or something. And to emphasize your point, then they want to help and they love to help. And as long as you're not coming up to them with some, dumbass request, they want you to succeed. If somebody's taken an interest in you or your project or your life, they will do everything they can to get you over the goal line and help you win. So don't be afraid to ask. Don't think their position, their authority, or their locate, whatever it is inhibiting you. No, they absolutely want to help you all they can.
Well, that's great advice and great points. So let's shift gears a little bit, because I want the audience to hear and know about some of your work that you're doing to make the world a better place. Broken brains and helping these kids. You've mentioned some of the things about TBI or sports injury. Let's share about that.
Okay. Well, you can see a lot of stuff in the background. That beautiful boy on the wall ran off a 100-foot cliff and killed himself 5 years ago, September 24th, 2020, right in the middle of COVID. Left me behind. He was my soulmate. He was everything I've asked for. He was a warm, generous, funny, loving, kind human being that I try to emulate every day. And through the grace of God, we had no idea. When he killed himself, we're like, what just happened? I was the last guy to see him. He was going to football. He was all dressed up. But he had been suffering from schizophrenia and depression for 3 years and didn't know how to tell us. He just ate it. So we didn't know this. And then through the grace of God, our coroner mentioned, he asked about contact sports because there was no reason for him to die. Nobody, everybody's dumbfounded. And the loss of a child, especially when it's not an accident, and I am praying so hard for these families down in Texas right now. When you have no cause, it is a big black hole. And we were able to find out that his brain had been damaged from all the repetitive head impacts that he takes. And just think about that. This is not concussions. These are those knocks that we take when we tackle, when we check, when we head soccer balls. People don't know. We have a huge problem with mental illness in our elite soccer players because a ball hits them at 100 miles an hour and they head it all the time. Okay. This is, the largest preventable cause of mental illness in this country because we allow our child's brains, who are not mature till 25, to be impacted by these hits for years, thousands, tens of thousands of hits, and we assume that because they're harmless or because they have no symptoms, they're harmless. Now, how many AT4s have you shot off, right? How many charges? Right? Have you been around? And you feel that blast wave from it. Well, it doesn't knock you out. It doesn't knock you down. But after hundreds or thousands of those, being in combat, incoming rounds, whatever, those blasts have an enormous toll on our veterans' brains. I'll get that in a second. So anyways, we found out, we challenged the CTE community. We had them actually do the research, and they admit that repetitive head impacts is the root cause of CTE. All these football players that are taking their lives, hockey players, wrestlers, are all because of these smaller impacts that seemingly don't impact the brain, but they do. So we started a foundation called the Mac Parkman Foundation, and our job is to reach out because nobody's trained on this, man. Dan, right now, this is not trained, repetitive head impacts is not trained in nursing programs, doctor programs, psychologist programs, suicide prevention programs, all the people that, when a child's mentally ill, obviously, nobody's trained on. So what happens? They misdiagnose it. Oh, you're mentally ill. Let's look back at your childhood. Oh, somebody must have touched you, right? Or whatever it is. So because you're mentally ill, what's the next step? And we see this with our veteran populations all the time. Pharmaceutical intervention. Let's get you a drug. Oh, it's got a side effect. We got a pill for that. There's a drug. Next thing you know, whether you're a child or a veteran, you're holding on to a bag of 10 to 15 medications, and you are messed up. You know why? Because you're continuing to be a soldier, or you're continuing to head that soccer ball or check. And so we don't treat the problem, which is a damaged brain, and therefore you wonder why our children, our NFL players, our veterans spiral with all these drugs and a damaged brain, and the end result is homicidal ideation, suicidal ideation, schizophrenia, depression, major mood disorders, all of it preventable by reducing the total aggregate impact of those impacts or explosives. So that's what our job is, to let people know that we can make sports safer. We have an I wrote legislation. Check this out. Nobody will touch my legislation, especially on the Republican side, because it makes them appear soft on football and they want to get reelected. So they'd rather know that children are being harmed. And instead of saying, look, let's just not do this Pop Warner stuff, let's do flag till 14 and take the aggregate contact, take the contact out of practice. That's where most of the damage comes from. And then on the veteran side, we get all kinds of support. I'm on the U.S. SOCOM Commander's Brain Health Team. Tons of support. Let's change the way we train. Let's suppress our weapons. Let's, we don't have to shoot AT4s all day. I mean, look, once you hit a building and you hit the same building with the same bullet traps, they got to flashbang it every time. They got to shoot live rounds every time. No, it's skills and drills, I'm a 1980s guy. We had sticks. We had duct tape. We didn't have shoot houses, right? We had tire houses, right?
Pew, 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 pew,
yeah.
pew.
Bam, 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 bam. You're dead, motherfucker. That's what we had, right? And not to say that my brain ain't damaged after Safar taking all that stuff and Safal can be in a sip and stuff, but, but we got to be smarter. So that's the whole focus, again, is giving back to society through education and awareness that, look, We got to find these kids, find these vets. We got to diagnose them. We got to get them the right treatments, and we can get them back. We can literally, we're not going to cure them, but we can take their quality of life to a level that's acceptable, that they can hang in there for the rest of their life. They're not struggling, and their brain functions, they're clear. And this happens all the time, man. We work with so many veterans that have come back, and done good. So, I appreciate you letting me, bring that up, but that's what we're trying to do, man.
No, that's part of the asset mindset, being an asset to others and doing positive things. And if you want to be an asset right now, hit pause, go into the description, and you will find everything in there for details on broken brains or how you can get in touch with Bruce and what he's doing or his organization. And of course, like, subscribe, and follow the asset mindset and share it with someone who might be interested in the subjects we are talking about today. But let's continue now on, I want to see more of your knowledge for just reacting and dealing with obstacles that come up. Because I like to share with people, because a lot of people feel overwhelmed when something doesn't go their way. Is this a redirection thing you do, or how do you shift your mind from not focusing on that negative thing to something more positive or staying goal oriented?
I do a couple things. When I run into an obstacle, when I feel myself getting anxious or scared, now I start going back into my mindset. Look, I can't control this. All right. Just for an example, I had a venture capitalist literally bend me over the last year, told me he had money coming in. I freed up a lot of liquidity. I kept my company going. And in the end, he bled me dry, hurt me hard. This is my children's money. And you know what? I started thinking to myself, I could hate this guy. I could spend a lot of negative energy on me, because this was a big obstacle, man. He was between me and a very successful company, this one right here. And in the end, I was like, you know what? There was some reason he tried to hurt me, but now that I went through all this pain, my company is now somehow worth a lot more money than it was, because we've created new contracts, new value, and bam, out of that, another investor came back, and we raised $1 million in 2 investment meetings just with where we were as a company. And because we didn't give up. And so, it came out of the blue. I just prayed. I said, look, I just need one more option, because this guy's killing me here, right? But I had the choice, and this is whether it was my son or with this guy or any other person that's really negatively impacting you. If you spend more than 5 minutes worrying or hating or just being angry, that is all wasted energy that you could be putting towards a solution. And so, there's a great book out there by Daniel Hawkins called Letting It Go, right? Let it go. There's nothing that, these people, they might have hurt you, but you are wasting time and effort that you could be putting towards your company, your family, your whatever you is out there. So when I run into an obstacle, I step back. I'm like, all right, how am I going to deal with this? My preferred action is I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to come up with a plan. I'm going to run it by my folks, and we're going to say, all right, this is the plan, and then we're going to go forward with that plan. And we don't know how it's going to turn out. And again, it goes back to, no matter how it turns out, that's what was going to happen, because you gave it 100%. And then I usually get angry. Now, anger is one of those emotions that can be so powerful, or it could be so negative. And when your anger was the anger that I used to have, when I would literally punch myself in the head, I'd hit walls, I had so much rage in me. And I understood now that it's from my childhood, it's from my ego, it's from a lot of unresolved trauma that I never dealt with in my life. And until I dealt with it, and we can always dial into that too, it bothered. It made me a very angry man. And while that was the Pac-Man that everybody knew, it wasn't healthy. Like my heart used to get like tight, And now that I found out, a lot of it was due to brain trauma. I've been shot in the face. I've been through all these explosions. I was finally diagnosed by the VA with general anxiety disorder as a result of damage to my brain. I was on the All-Army rugby team for 8 years. Spartec, hundreds, thousands of explosions. I don't even shoot bullets anymore. They barter. But it all adds up. So then, so that now my anger is a simmering, it's an anger, but it's like, now I'm just going to effing do this. Now I'm mad, and now this is going to get done. And if it doesn't get done, at least I try. So first I assess the problem. I step back, consult with the people that I trust, my mentors. I call up people all the time, dude. Hey, have you ever been here? And they're like, yeah, dude, don't go down that road. Okay, thanks, dude. And I do this for people too, right? And I'll call up because of, I now run a technology company. Bro, you know what I know about coding? Zip. All right. I fell into this thing because another dude wrecked the company. I had to roll in. I had to lay off 80% of the staff. And we had developed this little plug-in, and I invested in that. And over 7 years, we fought with IBM and all these clowns. And we said, look, this stuff does good tech. And then finally, it just took all this time and a lot of my money to get it here. But, in the end, I don't know anything about software. So I'm calling people all the time, dude. I'm like, hey, man, what do I do now? They're like, I do that. And so, that's where the mentors come in. Consult with your mentors, come up with a plan, and then, just like in the military or in civilian life, have a PACE plan. Have a primary plan, an alternate contingency, and an emergency, right? At least have a plan A and a plan B. Because when plan A goes to hell, you got to have a plan B. So think of what that is, The plan B for this thing, fire sale. Yeah, just put it on the market and I'll just do the best I can. Plan A, let's go make a big, fancy, a big money-making company. So that and your mentors, and then trust in yourself. And a lot of people, when they're confronted by obstacles or negativity, and I see this with military people don't fail. If you're a Green Beret or a Ranger or even in the military, you have probably passed every course you've ever been through, right? You're not allowed to fail. You might have recycled, but you ended up going all the way through, right? You might have flunked SFAS. Those are the guys that actually do well in life. I know several captains that flunked SFAS, but they failed, and they had to deal with that failure. If you've never failed in the military and you pop out here on this side of the fence, or you're in civilian life and you've been like that star athlete and you've done everything right and you've never, ever suffered adversity in any other way, and all of a sudden you get smacked with it, you have two options. You can curl up in a ball and you can quit, or you can learn and you can drive on. So many military people curl up, and because they've never faced it before. And I see it in my companies where I've, counseled people, I've had to lay them off, whatever, and they just have never failed. And so dealing with failure, get used to it. If you're single, go out and get rejected on the dance floor a couple times, right? Go suffer some rejection. I used to hate that too, right? But get used to being told no, or even if you fail, it's a lesson learned. And guess what? You'll never repeat that. Even failure is a good thing in life, man, because you're going to have to deal with it. You're never going to do everything completely right. And failure could be just not getting all the way you want to be. To some people, it's like, I didn't get all the way there. Give yourself on the back, give a pat in the back, and love yourself, man, but yeah, I just, that's the process I go through when I hit an obstacle. But the big thing is, no matter what happens on the other side of that obstacle, I'm just going to deal with it, man. I'm going to accept it. It's not going to consume me. And if it's negative, I'm just going to chuck it in the bin, and I'm going to keep pushing on. And it's all I know how to do, really.
Yeah. And I like how you took anger and used it in a way to move forward, or that energy. So you're like converting the energy, because every human being feels anger. We all get angry at times. We get frustrated. But do you want to let that burn you, or do you want to take that fire and stoke it so it lights the path where you're going to go in the future?
Good point. Yeah.
That is so crucial out there. So if you have anger, don't let it consume you. Use it in the direction you want to go. And that will really change the game, because if you're staying angry, you're going nowhere.
And to your point, that VC that I was so upset, I wasn't angry. I just gave it all up. But I used that to drive. It's like, you know what? Now I'm really going to get on this company, right? Leverage that, redirect, like you said. Let it motivate you, incentivize you, because you want to give it back to the person. the person that hurt you, right? But you don't want to hurt them, right? Let them go on their own messed up path, tormenting other poor souls, whatever their joy is, right? But you need to take that and say, look, I'm going to do some good with this. Because everything that happens to you in life, no matter how bad it is, can be turned to good. I turned the death of my son into a foundation, a book. And if that can happen, but from a dad that didn't know anything, you can turn anything into, any negative, event into good. And that is so powerful. Good and love. Love is the most powerful weapon in the world. I know a lot of people cannot believe that I say this, but I'm telling you, man, if you by just giving it up and learn to love anybody, dude, you can do so many things, bro.
I agree 100%.
That's where I'm at.
I agree 100%. And I'm proud of you, man. I really am, for sharing your story, for making changes, for actually putting yourself out there. And I think you're so inspiring for what you just shared right now for the audience. What worse thing as a parent? I have 3 kids. I have a son. Like that, talking about a tragedy, and for you being able to turn that and use that as a positive catalyst in the world. Because you know what? Your son was going to die at some point anyways. My son's going to die. I'm going to die. You're going to die. It's painful and it's horrible. But I know listeners out there, you can turn whatever pain you have around. You really can. Listen to Bruce and what he did. He got empowered, wrote a book. Like, you got a foundation. You can do it, whatever it is. And I'm pretty sure most of the pain and struggles you have out there aren't anything like Bruce had to go through. So Bruce, I just want to say thank you again for sharing and doing everything you do. And again, seriously, I'm one of the people that you help put food on the table, because I worked ASOT East for many years. Andy Albright, Andy's one of my mentors.
That was a good group of boys back there. Tell Andy hi, man. That's an amazing guy. I like him. Loved Andy, dude, man.
Yeah, he's great. He's absolutely phenomenal. One of the other mentors that I just have been so blessed, when people in our community say, hey, I'm just a regular guy, but I got to walk among giants. That's how I feel, and I didn't even do 20 years. I mean, I came in after 9/11. I'm an SF baby, but you know what? The people who taught me, mentored me, shaped me, and taught me the ways of the regiment kept me safe downrange. And my brothers to my left and my right, we made it out on my team. We lost people in the company and whatnot, but it's going to happen. It's life. People die here in the streets in a car accident. But sorry, I'm going off on a little tangent there and getting a little emotional.
Give yourself a break, bro. I want your audience to know this. When he says he's an SF baby, like, I think about 5% of the people that come in out of the civilian world to make it to SF actually make it. I was actually my Green Beret class of 1984 was one of the first X-ray programs, and I had I was an E5. I had a bunch of privates, like 3 of them made it. So give yourself a pat on the back, Dan. And honestly, I want to thank you for your service, not only to this country, but to those people that are listening right now. The message that you're bringing to them of optimism and confidence and all that, they're just giving them the hope that no matter what they're going through, they can get over it. And they can. They can get over it. They can get some things, like the death of my son, I'll never get over, but I will get through it. I will get through it till I see him on the other side, and I will see my son. I'm not even worried about it. But the message that you're bringing is amazing. It's necessary, and it's such a light in this dark world sometimes, and that's what we need. And God bless you for having this podcast and for your mission, man. I mean, that's kind of purpose. I hope all your listeners find this kind of purpose, because once you find your purpose, and sometimes it's not there when you're 22, you're not going to find your purpose when you're 22, all right? Your purpose comes later, all right? But do what you like, enjoy, but when you find your purpose like you found, sir, I'm glad you got on it, and you're an example for everybody that's listening to this podcast right now.
Thank you. I'm working it the best I can, and I tell you what, comments from you, comments from fans, people that have changed their lives because of the asset mindset philosophy and the book. That's where, when I was approached about doing the podcast, I really was like, okay, God, this is the next level. We want to keep moving forward. this is it. This is where I'm
Jordan.
going. I never thought I'd be a podcaster. Never thought I'd be an author. When I was young, I didn't think I'd be a Green Beret. I saw Rambo and I'm like, he's too badass. I can't be that guy. But you know what? There
I can't even
was.
drive a tank. No. You've done amazingly well, and you're doing a great job, dude.
Well, thank you, Bruce. I appreciate you being on here. I'm honored to have you. Thank you for your service, all you've done, all you're giving back to the world. I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for your time and blessed to call you an Asset Mindset teammate now. So for all you listeners out there, again, don't forget to check out the description. You can find all the links for Bruce and Broken Brains. You can definitely like and subscribe and follow the Asset Mindset and share it with others. And most of all, always remember, own your power.